Okay, so starting conversations in English can be, kind of nerve-wracking, right?
And
Especially when you're still like getting comfortable with the language.
it's true.
But what if I told you there were these simple, proven strategies that could make it way easier?
Hmm.
That's what we're diving into today, actually.
Really?
This guide called Top 10 English Conversation Starters for Beginners.
Okay.
It's all about, giving you the tools to like spark engaging conversations and connect with people confidently.
I like it. What's fascinating to me about these kinds of guides is they often highlight the sort of universal principles of good communication.
Yeah.
Principles that work, whether you're fluent in English or just starting out.
Totally. And this guide even includes a sample conversation between these two characters, Lisa and David, so we can see those starters in action.
Oh, fun.
I'm actually kind of curious to see how it all plays out. So,
Sure.
starter number 1 is you look familiar. Have we met before?
This one is a classic for a reason. It taps into our natural desire for connection.
Yeah.
By implying you might have a shared history with someone, even if you don't, you create a little bit of intrigue right from the start.
I guess it's less direct than just walking up and saying, "Hi, I'm."
Sure.
But honestly, I'm not sure I'd feel comfortable using this one. Like, what if the person thinks I'm a little strange?
Oh, yeah, that's a fair point. The key here is all in the delivery.
Mm-hmm.
A warm smile and a genuine tone can make all the difference.
Okay.
It's about expressing curiosity, not confusion.
Right, right, right.
And in the example, it seems to work pretty well for Lisa.
Yeah, David seems totally open to it. He
Mhm.
introduces himself and they move right into the next starter, which is, so what brings you here today?
Another classic. This is a great example of a question that works in almost any social situation.
Yeah.
It's open-ended.
Hmm.
It invites the other person to share something about themselves. And it shows that you're genuinely interested in why they're there.
And in the guide's example, it leads to David talking about, wanting to meet new people and practice his English.
Sure.
I noticed Lisa jumps in with a compliment about his English, which is a nice touch.
Absolutely. Positive reinforcement can be really encouraging, especially for someone who might be, a little self-conscious about their language skills.
For sure. Okay, moving on to starter number 3. Do you live around here? This feels like a pretty natural follow-up to the previous question. It's a pretty, standard small talk question, right?
It might seem simple, but it's actually, I think, quite clever.
Okay.
It taps into the psychology of place-based identity. People often feel a really strong connection to, their neighborhoods and communities.
Yeah.
So by asking this question, you're inviting them to share a part of who they are.
Oh, that's interesting. You're right. It's more than just asking for directions. It's about creating that sense of shared experience. And in the example, David mentions that he just moved to the area a few months ago, which gives Lisa a perfect opening to use starter number 4. How do you like it so far?
Exactly. This is a great way to show you're interested in their experience and encourage them to, elaborate.
Yeah, and David seems to really open up, talking about enjoying, the friendly people and the new experiences he's having. You can tell they're starting to, hit it off.
I love it.
So starter number 5 is, what do you do? This one feels a little unavoidable, especially in more professional settings.
Oh, the work question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can feel a bit obligatory at times, but it's still a reliable way to learn more about someone's background and interests.
Yeah.
And in the example, it leads to a conversation about careers.
Right. David says he works in IT, and Lisa shares that she's a teacher. Then the guide suggests following up with, do you enjoy what you do?
I like this addition. It takes the conversation beyond simply stating, job titles.
Mm-hmm.
And it invites a more personal response.
Mm-hmm.
It's about showing genuine interest in their experience, not just their, job description.
Right. And both Lisa and David seem to really enjoy their work, which probably adds to the positive vibe of the conversation. Now let's move on to a topic that's always fun. What do you like to do in your free time?
Oh, yeah.
This one's all about, getting to know someone on a personal level, right?
Exactly. This is where you start, digging into hobbies, passions, the things that bring people joy.
Yeah.
It's a great way to find common ground and potentially discover shared interests.
And it's a chance to practice some more descriptive language too, right?
Oh, for sure.
Talking about your hobbies often involves using, more colorful vocabulary and expressing your personality.
Absolutely. In the example, David mentions that he enjoys hiking and watching movies,
Yeah.
which leads Lisa to ask, do you have a favorite movie?
Ooh.
Now, this is a classic conversation extender.
It really is. Everyone has an opinion on movies, and it can spark some fun debates or, like, recommendations. In this case, David mentions liking Inception, and surprise, surprise, it's one of Lisa's favorites, too.
What are the chances?
I know.
I love it when these little coincidences happen in conversations.
Yeah.
It helps create a sense of connection and makes the interaction more memorable.
Absolutely. Okay, 2 more starters to go in this section. Number 9 is, do you like to travel? This one always seems to get people talking.
Yeah, it's a universal topic. Sparks curiosity and wanderlust. It allows people to share stories about different cultures, exciting experiences, and even their dreams for future adventures.
I bet it's also a great way to practice using different tenses in English, talking about past trips, present plans, and future aspirations.
Absolutely. And in the example, Lisa follows this up with a final starter. Have you been to any cool places?
This one's all about inviting storytelling.
It encourages the other person to, like, paint a picture with their words,
Yeah.
describing the sights, sounds, and even the emotions of their travel experiences.
And it can lead to some, like, great recommendations or travel tips, too. In the dialogue, Lisa talks about her recent trip to Japan, and it sounds like David's getting inspired.
This is a great example of how a simple conversation starter can blossom into a much richer exchange of ideas and experiences.
It's amazing how these seemingly basic questions can unlock so much potential for connection. But now I'm curious about the guide's tips for sounding natural. How do we take these starters and make them feel even smoother and more engaging?
Well, that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll unpack those tips and see how they can take your conversational skills to the next level. All right, so let's unpack these tips for sounding natural.
Okay.
The guide starts with, pretty simple but powerful reminder. Smile and use open body language.
It's funny how we can sometimes forget the basics when we're, focused on learning a language.
Yeah.
But I totally get it. Like a genuine smile and open posture can instantly make you more approachable.
Totally. It's like sending this nonverbal signal that says hey, I'm happy to be talking to you.
Yeah.
And think about it from the other person's perspective, right? If someone's smiling and making eye contact with you, you're probably going to feel more comfortable opening up to them.
Oh, for sure. Especially if you're still, building confidence in your English skills.
Yeah.
Those nonverbal cues can make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Remember how Lisa seemed so relaxed and friendly in that example conversation?
Yeah.
I bet that helped David feel more at ease.
Absolutely. It sets a positive tone right from the start.
Yeah.
Okay, tip number 2 is all about using follow-up questions.
Okay.
This is crucial for keeping the conversation, flowing and showing that you're truly engaged in what the other person has to say.
This is where active listening comes in, right? It's not just waiting for your turn to speak.
No.
It's about really paying attention to what the other person is saying and asking questions that build on their responses.
Precisely. And the guide emphasizes that these follow-up questions don't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
Even simple things really, or that's interesting, tell me more.
Yeah.
Can make a big difference.
Those little verbal nods that are kind of I'm with you, keep going.
Yeah, for sure.
And I noticed Lisa doing this throughout the example conversation. When David mentioned enjoying hiking, she didn't just say, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
She was like, do you have a favorite hiking trail?
Exactly.
It shows she's actually listening and wants to know more.
And by asking that follow-up question, she's also giving David a chance to elaborate and share more about his passion. It keeps that conversation moving forward in this natural and engaging way.
Right.
Now, the final tip might seem obvious, but it's, I think, worth emphasizing.
Yeah.
Listen actively.
I have to admit, this is something I struggle with sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in thinking about what you're going to say next.
Yeah.
That you kind of forget to really listen to the other person.
Yeah, it's a common trap. Active listening is about more than just hearing the words, though.
Yeah.
It's about paying attention to their tone of voice, their body language.
Yeah.
The emotions behind their words.
Right. It's about being present in the moment, not just rehearsing your next line in your head.
For sure.
The guide even suggests some simple ways to show you're listening, like nodding, making eye contact, and offering those little verbal cues we talked about earlier.
Yeah, all those little subtle signals, they can make the other person feel heard and understood.
Right.
Which is essential for building that rapport.
For sure. Imagine how David must have felt when Lisa was like, wow, that sounds incredible. after he mentioned wanting to visit Japan.
Oh, yeah. He probably felt very seen, validated,
Yeah.
which is so important, especially when you're trying to connect with someone in a new language.
For sure. Okay, so we've got these, like, fantastic conversation starters.
Yeah.
And now we've got these powerful tips for making them sound even more natural and engaging. I'm feeling more confident already.
I love it.
But you know what? It makes me wonder. These starters are geared toward beginners, right?
Yeah.
Do you think they're still relevant for, like, more advanced English speakers?
That's a great question. What's interesting is that these starters are based on these, like, universal principles of communication.
Yeah.
Principles that I think transcend language levels.
Okay.
Building rapport, showing interest, finding common ground.
Mm-hmm.
These are essential for any successful conversation.
So even if you're, like, comfortable with, complex grammar and vocabulary, these starters can still be valuable tools for initiating conversations and connecting with people.
Absolutely. And remember, even like native English speakers rely on these types of questions to start and maintain conversations.
Right.
They might phrase them differently or add more nuance, but the underlying principles are the same.
It's not about memorizing a script. It's about understanding the why behind these starters and adapting them to your own style in the specific situation.
Exactly. And that brings us to, I think, a really important point.
Right.
While these starters are incredibly useful,
Yeah.
they're really just the beginning.
That's true. Once you've, like, broken the ice, how do you keep the conversation going? How do you move beyond small talk and into more, like, meaningful territory?
Yeah.
So we've got these conversation starters and we've got the those tips for sounding natural.
Yeah.
And now I'm curious about how to keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
How do we transition from, like, those initial icebreakers to something, more engaging?
Yeah, that's where I think the real art of conversation comes in.
Yeah.
It's about taking those initial, like, sparks of connection and building something, more meaningful.
Yeah.
One key is, I think, being observant.
Okay.
Pay attention to what the other person is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Look for those little cues that can lead you to, deeper topics.
So, like, if someone mentions they enjoy, like, hiking,
Yeah.
you could ask about their favorite trails or maybe if they've, done any backpacking.
Exactly. Or if they mentioned a recent trip,
Yeah.
you could ask about, like, the culture or the food, anything that stood out to them.
Right.
It's about finding those, threads of interest and gently kind of pulling on them to see where they lead.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like detective work.
Yeah.
You're looking for clues that can help you unlock a, like, deeper level of conversation.
Totally.
But it's not just about asking questions, is it?
No.
It's also about, like, sharing your own experiences and perspectives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A good conversation is a two-way street.
Yeah.
When you share something about yourself, it invites the other person to do the same.
Right.
Creates that sense of reciprocity and trust.
And I think it's also important to be, mindful of the context.
Oh, for sure.
Like the way you'd approach a conversation at a networking event.
Yeah.
It might be different from how you chat with someone at, like, a party.
Totally. If it's a, professional setting,
Yeah.
you might want to steer the conversation towards, like, shared industry interests or career goals.
Right. And whereas in a more, casual setting, you might talk about, like, hobbies or travel or movies, things that, like, help you connect on a personal level.
Exactly. And remember those nonverbal cues we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
They become even more important, I think, as the conversation progresses.
Okay.
Maintaining eye contact, nodding, showing genuine interest through your, expressions.
Yeah.
All of these contribute to a positive and engaging dynamic.
It's like those nonverbal cues are saying, I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm enjoying this conversation.
Exactly. And don't be afraid of, like, a few pauses or moments of silence. Those are natural parts of any conversation.
Yeah.
It's a chance to, like, gather your thoughts or simply enjoy the company of the other person.
I think we often put too much pressure on ourselves to fill every silence with words.
Yeah.
But sometimes a comfortable silence can actually be a sign of a strong connection, right?
Absolutely. It shows a level of ease and comfort with each other.
Yeah.
So remember, you've got the starters, you've got those tips for sounding natural, and now you've got these strategies for, keeping that conversation flowing.
Right.
The more you practice, the more confident and natural you'll become.
Yeah, it's like any skill.
Yeah.
It develops with time and effort.
Totally.
This deep dive has given our listeners such a fantastic toolkit for, sparking conversations in English and building those genuine connections.
And remember, it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about being willing to put yourself out there,
Mm-hmm.
make mistakes, and learn along the way.
Yeah, the goal is to connect with others and share experiences no matter your fluency level.
Beautifully said. Now, as you go out into the world and put these strategies into practice,
Yeah.
I'd like to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
How can you use these conversation starters as like a springboard to discover something new about the people you meet?
Ooh, I like that.
How can you turn those initial exchanges into opportunities for, learning, growth, and maybe even a little bit of adventure?
Such a great question. It's not just about learning English.
Yeah.
It's about using language to connect with the world around us.
That's it.
So go out there, spark those conversations, and see where they lead you.